This year, with the iPhone 17 Pro, it finally feels like Apple is taking the Pro line in a bold new direction. It's designed to maximize everything, battery, performance, with a camera system that actually lives up to the Pro name. But who's this phone really for? Can it deliver on the hype? And is it worth upgrading? This is my review of the iPhone 17 Pro Max. So let's start with the new look, which has been controversial. Apple has given the iPhone 17 Pro a fresh new design, and this year, both the standard and Pro models use aluminium. The Pro has a unibody structure rather than the old glass and frame sandwich, wrapping around the back with a glass cutout at the bottom for wireless charging. Apple's moved away from titanium to improve thermal performance, as aluminium conducts heat far better, and that is paired with a new vapor chamber for the first time on a Pro iPhone, and more on that when we get to performance. Around the back, the 17 Pro has the biggest camera bump yet, or as Apple calls it, the plateau. Like the iPhone Air, most of the components now live here, freeing up space inside the body for the largest iPhone battery ever in the Pro Max, which is great. That is something that a lot of us Pro users have been asking for, and they've managed to do it without significantly bulking up the phone. The main body is actually slightly thicker than before, but I mean, it is barely noticeable in the hand. Although that aluminium is a little more slippery. Now that every phone just looks the same on the front with a giant screen, I think the manufacturers are really trying to make their phones more bold and visually stand out on the back. I actually really like the new look. I do agree that it looks and feels a little bit less premium than the old sandwich style design, but it feels more like the Pro is built for purpose now, offering as many features as possible with the most cameras and the biggest battery in the lineup. With the Pro this year, they're not chasing a thin design for the sake of it. The Air exists to fill that gap for anyone that wants something thin and premium. And while that does have its own trade-offs, I do think that the Air has the best looking design this year. It just looks stunning. If you missed it, you should definitely check out my review. I will link to it down in the description. Now we do need to talk about the colours because this has upset a few people. The Pro comes in silver, navy blue, and this bold cosmic orange. There is no black option, like at all. Navy is the closest you'll get if you want something dark, which is odd considering that black is usually the most popular with the sleek, more professional look. And with only 3 colours this year instead of the usual 4, it almost feels like Apple just forgot. For me, it was an easy choice. I love orange, I see orange, so yeah, I got the orange one. The Pro line often gets a lot of flack for having dull colours, and it feels like this is Apple's answer to that. And I was a bit unsure at first, as I do normally just stick with the neutrals, but honestly, no regrets. It is vibrant, it's standout, and it fits my vibe. But what do you think of the colours this year? Are you into the bold cosmic orange, or do you wish they kept a classic black? Just to know, both the navy and orange are anodized finishes, so any scratches may show the raw silver colour underneath. So if that is something that worries you, then silver is your safest bet. But one little detail that I love, the screws next to the USB-C port are colour matched. That is totally unnecessary, but a really nice touch. If you're looking to upgrade to any of the new iPhones this year, then you should know that the entire lineup now has pretty much exactly the same display, same colours, same contrast ratio. They all get 120Hz ProMotion for high refresh rate with smooth animations. The biggest changes from last year come to both brightness and durability, with every iPhone getting a bump from 2000 to 3000 nits outdoors, and it is definitely noticeable when the sun makes a rare appearance here in the UK. Apple's new Ceramic Shield 2 claims 3 times better scratch resistance. I'm not about to take my keys to the display to find out, but my 16 Pro still looks pristine, so I am confident in their claim. The only difference between the displays this year comes with size, with the 17 and 17 Pro at 6.3 inch, the Air at 6.5, and the Big Pro Max at the same 6.9 inch as before. I personally love the bigger size for that bigger viewfinder in the camera, or watching content on the go, and for that larger battery that they can fit in here. Performance gets a solid boost this year thanks to the new aluminium design and the A19 Pro chip with both a 6-core CPU and GPU that offer modest improvements over last year. But the biggest change is the new vapor chamber cooling system, so let's talk about it. The chip still sits in the main body with the vapor chamber welded to the aluminium chassis. And as the phone heats up, the water inside turns to vapor, moves the heat to cooler areas, where it condenses again, repeating to keep the phone cooler during demanding tasks like gaming or exporting long videos. I'm sure you probably noticed your phone getting warm in the hand when you're in those situations. And that heat usually causes a couple of things. Number one is throttling, where the system slows down to prevent overheating. And two is screen dimming. I've experienced this a lot with the 15 and 16 Pro when I've been just traveling and taking like a lot of photos and videos in a short period of time, especially if it's already hot out. And a couple of years back, I do remember testing the 15 at the Botanical Gardens, where it is already pretty warm inside, and the phone heated up and dimmed the screen quite quickly. But with the 17 Pro, it lasted a lot longer before any of that kicked in. Now, the vapor chamber can only really help with heat that is being generated from inside the system. There's not much you can do about environmental heat, so that will always be a problem. But so far in my early use, that is the only time where I've seen the display dim at all on the 17 Pro Max. And while that's not the most scientific of testing, it lines up with what Apple's saying, with these having up to 40% better sustained performance over last generation, as a result of the new material, chip, and the vapor chamber. Now let's talk about the cameras. This is the one area of upgrades I look forward to most every year. I'm always shooting on the go and when I travel, and my phone is the camera that I always have with me. The selfie camera has had its biggest update in years, from 12 to 18 megapixels, and it now uses a square sensor with center stage. That means the front camera can now capture vertical or horizontal photos and videos, regardless of which way you're holding the phone. It captures with a 7 megapixel crop by default, or the full 18 megapixels when widened. Or you can tap the new rotate button to switch into horizontal and capture a group selfie or record some landscape video for a vlog where you've still got a good grip on the phone. It can even detect as people enter the frame and automatically adjust as needed. It's a great feature. I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing other phones copying it, and it's been really well implemented on all the new iPhones. As I said in my Air review, the only thing I'd suggest is letting us move that viewfinder up closer to the camera for a better eye line, especially if you're trying to vlog and check your framing. And let us shoot with the full square sensor so we can change the cropping afterwards for different platforms, kind of like what Insta360 does with their action cams. The new sensor also means we get better stabilization on the front now to smoothen out any shakiness, like me fighting here for my life on a run. And we can finally do dual capture, recording with both the front and back camera at the same time. I'm not quite sure why this took so long, as they actually added this years ago for third-party apps. You can move that little selfie window to a different corner if you want, and it is baked into the footage so it's ready to share. But it would be nice if we had an option to have both files separately to give us more options when editing afterwards. I used it here to film me stroking a cat, not the most exciting thing ever. But yeah, you could use this to film a concert or a sports game and capture your reaction at the same time. All three rear cameras are now 48 megapixel Fusion cameras, with the telephoto now joining the main and ultra wide. Fusion means that when you take a shot, the phone captures a high detail image alongside a lower resolution one and then blends the two to combine the sharpness of the larger file with the color and brightness of the smaller one. The result is a 24 megapixel image by default. These are all shot straight out of camera, no edits. Colors are rich and vibrant without being over the top. Details are crisp and clear, though sometimes a little over-sharpened. The new 4x telephoto has been my favourite to shoot with this past couple of weeks. It is slightly shorter than last year's 5x, but that does make it more versatile for portraits. It's the equivalent of a 100mm lens, and it also helps close that massive optical gap between the main and tele camera before. The sensor here is also 56% larger, meaning it handles low light even better with less noise for a cleaner image, but also giving you more of that soft bokeh blur in the background, all in camera, no portrait mode needed. And like how Apple crops into the main camera for 1.2, 1.5 and 2x zooms, they're also doing that here for the new telephoto, giving you a 200mm 8x zoom and a resulting 12 megapixel image from the middle of the sensor. Check out my squirrel friend here I managed to capture without scaring, getting nice and close with the new longer zoom. Now, including the ultra-wide macro mode, Apple says this is like having 8 lenses in your pocket, from 13mm to capture wide landscapes, all the way up to 200 for those subjects off in the distance, making this the longest zoom range on the iPhone yet. Apple calling these crop presets lenses has always been a bit iffy to me, but they do apply different processing at each level, so the results genuinely look better than you doing a manual crop yourself. Now, something they also brought to the 16 is the new bright photographic style for more vibrant skin tones. I really like the look of this one. I've got it dialed in here at -50 for tone and +25 for colour. If you're coming from an older iPhone and you've got no idea what I'm talking about, these were totally revamped last year, and I've got a video talking all about my recommended settings and my favourite styles for different looks and situations. So make sure you check it out after this if you want your photos looking even better. Now, one of the reasons I love shooting with iPhones is how seamlessly they fit into my workflow as I'm running this channel, whether it's shooting full resolution ProRAW stills for product shots and thumbnails, or using the phone as a B-roll cam for unboxing videos. For anyone using iPhones professionally, this year brings some pretty serious upgrades with ProRes RAW and OpenGate. ProRes RAW is Apple's highest quality codec, paired with the new Apple Log 2 profile for a wider colour gamut and a flat image that you can grade later. With OpenGate unlocking recording using the full sensor, jumping from standard 4K at 3840 by 2160 to 4224 by 3024. Giving you more room to reframe and crop for cinematic aspect ratios. These formats are available in Apple's Final Cut camera and the Blackmagic app, which are both free. Blackmagic does remain the better choice if you want full manual control, but ProRes RAW files are insanely huge, so both apps do require you to shoot with external storage connected. For comparison, on a 1TB SSD, you'll get about 81 hours of H.265 at 4K 30. But only about 100 minutes with ProRes RAW and OpenGate, with just 46 minutes at 60 FPS. So yeah, it's not for the faint-hearted. These formats were clearly made with professionals in mind. Like Apple themselves, they've been using iPhones to film all of their keynotes for the last few years now. The other new feature here is GenLock, which allows for multiple devices to be perfectly synchronized, ensuring that they all output video frames at the same precise moment. Think syncing up a bunch of iPhones for a matrix bullet time effect, slowing or stopping time. If you saw that crazy iPhone rig they used for 28 months later, I'm betting that Apple was working with them and had it developed for that, and now they're releasing it for the 17 Pro. This is going to be a huge time saver in big productions like this. Now, with the Plateau housing more of the internals, Apple managed to increase the size of the batteries, with the Pro Max getting an almost 9% increase, with a 20% increase on the smaller Pro. But battery size will also depend on where you buy it. UK and Europe models do still have the physical SIM tray, but in the US, where it is eSIM only, that space is now used for an even bigger battery, around 250 milliamp hours more, which Apple says gives you about an extra 2 hours of video playback. In my use with my smaller UK battery, I have still been really impressed by it, getting 6 to 7 hours of screen on time even with heavy use, and on normal days it easily lasts me a whole day and then some. The Pro Max is still the one to get if you want the best battery life. But part of me does kind of wish that we at least had an option for an eSIM only model in the UK, now that that actually means getting an even bigger battery. All the 17s support the new Qi 2 25-watt standard for faster wireless charging, as do the 16s with the iOS 26 update. And we are starting to see new accessories come out which support the faster standard, so I will link to some of my videos covering those down below. With this year's Pro iPhones, it feels like Apple is finally taking the Pro line in a new direction where form truly follows function, as it should in a device that is marketed towards pros. It actually kind of reminds me of the Touch Bar MacBook Pro era. Do you remember when Apple made those super slim and they removed all the ports and the function keys, only to walk it back with the M series? They brought back the ports, made the laptops thicker, and they packed in the power and features that pros actually wanted. And that's kind of what's happening here. The 17 Pro isn't chasing thinness, it is maximizing everything. You want the best battery life? Get the Pro. The best performance? get the Pro. All the cameras and Pro video tools, this is where the Pro really shines. And that leaves the Air as the option for those wanting a super thin, premium, ultra portable device. If you're on a 16 Pro, you can skip the upgrade unless you really want the new telephoto, front camera, or you shoot professionally. But for 15, 14, or earlier users, this is going to be a big step up for you, especially in terms of battery performance, thermals, and the cameras. Price-wise, the 17 Pro starts at £1,100 or dollars with 256 gigs, with the Pro Max at 100 more for the same storage. The only difference between them being the screen and battery size, or the massive new 2TB option that is only on the Pro Max, if you've got a couple of grand to spare. But honestly, now that ProMotion and 256 gigs is standard across the lineup, the base 17 is by far the best value for money, and a lot of users are going to be very happy with it. If you want an ultra thin design, definitely check out my full iPhone Air review for all the pros and cons. It is linked in the description. If you enjoyed this review, leave a like and give it some hype. That really helps the channel out. Are you upgrading this year? If so, let me know what from and why. For me, it is all about those cameras. I am working on a video all about my favourite accessories for the 17, so make sure you're subscribed and hit the bell so you don't miss it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.